Hello and good evening. You are watching Newsplus right here on Ethiopian Prime. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Faith Nyaude. A quick look at stories that are making headlines tonight. President Mnangagwa today presided over Zimbabwe's official launch of its bid for a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council for the period of 2027 to 2028. The bid has already received support from SADC, the AU, and countries such as Russia. Details on that story coming up later in the bulletin. Relief for players in the transport sector after government approved a downward review of license and permit fees. This is expected to reduce the cost of doing business in the sector. We give you an assessment of the first day of schools opening for the third and final term of the year. Our correspondent was on the ground and will be giving us a detailed report. Another match, another defeat. Same old script for the Warriors, who fell 1-0 to Rwanda. Now, our top story this evening, Zimbabwe has officially launched its bid for a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council for the period 2027 to 2028. Now, President Emerson Mnangagwa presided over the launch this afternoon at the Harare International Conference Center, with the country already enjoying strong endorsements from SADC, the African Union, and a number of strategic global partners. Ibn Mabunda gives us more.
Now, President Emerson Mnangagwa launched a campaign for Zimbabwe's candidature on the United Nations Security Council during the period 2027 and 2028. This comes against the backdrop of the elections that are slated for June of 2026. At a launch ceremony graced by ambassadors from the region and the global community in the capital, Harare, President Mnangagwa underscored Zimbabwe's readiness to play its part in shaping global peace and security, describing the country's candidature as both historic and timely.
As an independent and sovereign nation, Zimbabwe is therefore stepping forward to bid for a seat at this esteemed body. We are amplifying our long-standing belief in the power of multilateralism.
The country's candidature has already been endorsed by SADC, the African Union, and strategic partners including Russia, Cuba, Iran, and Senegal, a signal of growing confidence in Zimbabwe's re-engagement drive. The president highlighted that Zimbabwe's bid was also a bid for Africa and the global south.
The bid for this seat is not solely for Zimbabwe, but it is for Africa, the developing world, and all nations that deserve and desire peace. To date, we are humbled by the confidence and the trust bestowed on us by SADC and AU member states. We have unanimously supported and endorsed our candidature.
The United Nations Security Council is made up of 5 permanent members: China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, while 10 non-permanent members serve on a rotational basis. Securing the seat requires at least 9 votes out of 15, though decisions can be vetoed by any of the 5 permanent members. In his campaign, the president highlighted past and present efforts by Zimbabwe to contribute toward global peace and security.
Zimbabwe has played a meaningful role in peacekeeping missions across Africa and beyond. That is, including in Somalia, in Angola, East Timor, Sierra Leone, Kosovo, Liberia, Sudan, South Sudan, and Darfur.
Foreign Affairs Minister Professor Amon Murwira said Zimbabwe's push for a Security Council seat reflects a broader African aspiration for stronger representation in multilateral institutions.
The seat is consistent with the doctrine of Zimbabwe's foreign relations and international cooperation, which states that, and I quote, Zimbabwe is a friend to all and an enemy to none. This too underlines Zimbabwe's willingness to work with the international community to bring peace in the world, as spelled out in our national development strategy.
If successful, Zimbabwe will take up the seat for the 2027-2028 period, a repeat of the 91 to 92 and 93 to 94 tenures, and a step forward for Africa's quest for stronger global representation. From here, Zimbabwe will continue its engagement and re-engagement efforts as it seeks to garner more support for a seat on the United Nations Security Council as a non-permanent member. Reporting for ZTN Prime, I'm Eben Mabunda in Harare.
Now, we are still staying with this matter, and for us to get more insights on Zimbabwe's bid for the UN Security Council non-permanent seat, we cross over live to Gibson Nyikadzino, who is a political analyst. Gibson, good evening, and thank you so much for making the time and for joining us. Now, why is it important for Zimbabwe to be elected to the United Nations Security Council, especially for developing nations?
Thank you for the pertinent question. I think first of all, we really need to appreciate that Zimbabwe's bid into the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member is coming at a time there is a lot of anticipation on issues to reform the organization and also issues to ensure that there is a just representation of nations from the global south. So by virtue of that, Zimbabwe's place in the Security Council, it is coming as a key input into the representations of the global south countries, which have for a long time been facing an unjust treatment in the world. But thankfully, calls for the reform of the organization and also the inclusion of the global south in terms of its numbers, its growing stature, the number of economies that are coming up from the global south. It means there is a reshaping of the international political, social and economic architecture, which Zimbabwe is also pushing through various means. So this alone, it is a key representation of upholding the aspirations of the global south that Zimbabwe included. We need to live in a just and equal society where nations are treated the same and their sovereignty is respected.
So now, Gibson, with some endorsements from SADC, the AU and other countries like Russia and Cuba, what are Zimbabwe's chances of landing this seat?
In Russia and Cuba, you realize that Zimbabwe has also been at the center of the struggle for the emancipation of global south countries. This could be political, this could be economic. And as a result, it is within the interest of SADC to ensure that Zimbabwe gets that place, and it is also in the interest of the African Union that Zimbabwe gets that place. Why? Because from these two blocks, Zimbabwe has been regarded as a pillar in terms of rejection of use of coercive measures that at one point tried to alienate the country, isolate it, but because of its traditional diplomatic relations with key allies in the region, on the continent, including Russia and including Cuba, this is a key input in that goal. So in as much as Zimbabwe is doing this, we also believe and see that regional blocs, they are important in using the numbers, and also Russia and Cuba as traditional allies, they are representing a shift in terms of where perceptions are heading to.
Zimbabwe has had a history of serving on the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member. That's from 1991 to 1992, after having previously served from 1983 to 1984. What do you think? What do you make of this experience that Zimbabwe really does hold?
And lastly, when we look at the present moment, Zimbabwe, yes, was once a member 1983 to 1984 and then 1991 to 1992. These have been different historical epochs. At the first, it was a bipolar world where we had the USSR and the United States as the key dominant players in global politics. In 1991 to 1992, we are looking at the shifts that came because of the collapse of the Soviet Union. It was a unipolar world that we are living in. But now we are going towards a multipolar world. So this is a representation of Zimbabwe's existence as a country that has witnessed the bipolar world, the unipolar world, and also the initiation towards the multipolar world. So this is a key step for Zimbabwe to ensure that its presence in the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member is represented, and it's also representing the interests of the whole global South.
Thank you so much, Gibson, for your time. That's Gibson Nyikadzino, a political analyst. We were just discussing Zimbabwe's bid for a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. Now, still on some international affairs, Zimbabwe and Zambia are meeting in Harare to review progress on agreements signed during the 18th session of the Joint Permanent Commission on Cooperation in 2024. Now, the review focuses on key areas such as trade, transport, energy, agriculture, and tourism. Officials say that the meeting is crucial in tracking progress, addressing challenges, and ensuring that commitments are fulfilled. Our reporter, Melissa Chatkobo, gives us details.
Zimbabwe and Zambia share more than just the mighty Victoria Falls. Previously, their cooperation hinged on the liberation struggle, while today it is anchored in trade and investment. In March last year, agreements were reached on chambers of commerce to promote trade, and a tripartite deal between ZIDA, Zimtrade, and the Zambia Development Agency to boost investment. Priority projects include the Lionsden-Kafu railway line to ease regional connectivity and efficiency upgrades at the Kazungula border post. Cooperation also spans across all areas of mutual interest, such as energy, tourism, and agriculture. This week's meeting assessed progress on these commitments.
This MTR affords us a valuable opportunity to review and evaluate our work in order to forge greater coherence and provide direction to further enhance the full and effective implementation of our joint decisions and programs. During this two-day session, our deliberations will reflect on areas of cooperation.
There has been progress noted in these agreements, but however, there is need to remove some barriers to unlock the wealth these deals and projects have. The Zambian delegation stressed the importance of concluding the Financial Commission, a move they say could elevate cooperation to head of state level.
It is our prayer that we're going to make progress on this one, so that it can be, so that the discussions can be concluded and the agreement ready for signing, so that probably instead of having the Joint Permanent Commission next, our meeting should be at bi-national commission level.
Economists believe that if these agreements are fully implemented, Zimbabwe and Zambia could unlock billions in revenue and transform living standards across both nations.
The bi-national commission, I believe, is a step in the right direction as it enhances social welfare, economic development, and most importantly, mutual benefit of exchange of goods and services between the two countries. Their relationship dates back between Zimbabwe and Zambia, liberation struggle, and currently transformed to economic benefits as exuded by the engagements, which speaks to the trade and which speaks to the medium to long-term economic benefits that you make.
For Harare and Lusaka, the review meeting is a reminder that strong ties on paper must translate into real progress on the ground to deliver growth and prosperity for their citizens. Reporting for ZTM Prime, I am Melissa Chatkobo in Harare.
Now, the transport sector license permit fees review has been approved. We are giving you details when Newsplus comes back.
Get ready, Zimbabwe. From September 17th to the 19th, 2025, the nation gathers for the Zimbabwe Economic Development Conference, ZCon 2025, at the Bulawayo International Trade Fair Company, running under the theme Macroeconomic and Sectorial Policies for Broad-Based Economic Transformation. The conference will be officially opened by His Excellency, President Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa. ZCon 2025 will explore macroeconomic growth and currency stability, empowering the informal sector, infrastructure development beyond the budget, harnessing technology, digital and AI, unlocking diaspora investment, and tapping into regional trade opportunities under AFCFTA. For registration or sponsorship, visit our website on www.zimtreasury.co.zw or call 0776 968 033 or 0782 209 510 or 0777 547 058. Register today for just $100 or ZIG equivalent. ZCon 2025, shaping Zimbabwe's economic future.
Welcome back. You are still watching Newsplus. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, schools across the country opened their doors today, marking the beginning of the third term. With just weeks to go before grade 7 exams begin, learners return to class with renewed energy, while parents and educators are focusing not just on academics, but also on student welfare. Our reporter Tafara Spochiwe has more on day one of schools reopening.
It's day one of the third term. It's back to business for teachers and learners. A snap survey conducted around Harare showed a healthy turnout of both educators and pupils. Classrooms were nearly full, with teachers already in full teaching mode and learners settling in quickly. For many students, it's a joy to be back, especially for grade 7s preparing for their final exams, which begin on the 22nd of September. Most parents say they have done their part, they have paid fees and bought uniforms, and the ball is now in the court of the learners and their tutors.
Because you don't have a gate pass. They allow you to pay fees even in installments. So munanga ine $20 yake could bring mwana kuchikoro because anokwanisa kuibhadhara mwana ombodzidza achitsvaka ini. So yeah, the turnout was okay.
But there are concerns over payment of school fees. While some schools allowed payments in multiple currencies, others refused to accept the ZIG.
Well, as for our school, vanotambira mazig, vanotambira futi USD. So une option yekubhadhara nezig kana une zig, une option yekubhadhara neUSD kana une USD. It's up to you as the parent.
Back to school for some parents is a story of sacrifice, prioritizing their children's needs above everything else.
Mwana ana butsu yakashama akusekwa even achiziva haasisina that confidence. So if as parents we could just work together and take education yemwana as a priority and prioritize kudzidza kwemwana wako and make sure mwana wako ane zvinhu zvakakwana, in as much as we would say kuti zvinhu zvakaoma, but education has to be the priority and then we do everything else kumashure.
The Minister of Primary and Secondary Education says schools are adequately prepared for the grade 7 exams and that teachers are geared up for the third term.
We had a vacation school where students were grilled and they received some skills in preparation for the public examinations, and I can confidently say that our students are going to pass, and we're going to realize an improvement in the pass rate compared to the 2024 public examinations.
But beyond the fees and finances, parents are also urging each other to play an active role in their children's education, especially as exam pressure builds.
Vabereki vanofanira kuti vasvike pachikoro vachionana nematicha nezvinenge zvidiwa nematicha, nokuti tinogona kuita dambudziko rokuti vamwe vana vanopiwa mari yeschool fees wotadza kuibhadhara mari iyoyo. Munongona kuti munyika matiri kurarama mune madrugs ari kuitika, saka vana vanogona kuendesa mari yo kumadrugs. Saka zvakangokosha kuti mubereki zvikoro zvichingovhurwa kunyanya zuva rekutanga kana svondo rekutanga zvikapa chikoro woona kuti mari yawakapa mwana akabhadhara here uye zvakare mwana ari kusvika here kuchikoro kwachona.
Drug and substance abuse remains a growing concern in many schools. Parents say the fight can only be won if educators and families work hand in hand.
Panyaya madrugs apa paakutoda kuti tibatsirane vabereki pamwe chete nematicha. Saka pane behavior dzinogona kutanga kutariswawo kubva kumba kuti mwana, vabereki vanofanira kumonita mwana wa behavior yake, mabhegi ake, zvikafu zvake. Vakaona behavior yemwana isiri kunyatsoita zvakanaka, vanofanira kuya futi kuchikoro ona kuti behavior yemwana ari kunyatsobehavior here zviri right. Saka chinhu chokuti choda kuti kuchikoro chiri kubatsirika, kumba chiri kubatsirika.
As Term 3 kicks off, the focus is not just on results, but on making schools safe, supportive, and accessible for every learner. Tafaras Bochiwe for ZTN Prime.
In other news, former chairperson of the African Union Commission, Her Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, toured Liberation City in Harare, Zimbabwe, highlighting that the project was integral to preserving and promoting African narratives. The Liberation City is a 101-hectare multi-purpose development which incorporates the Museum of African Liberation, Heritage Village, Liberation Mall, an African-themed amusement park, an animal park, a 5-star hotel, and world-class presidential villas, amongst other amenities and attractions. It is being developed by Pan-African think tank, the Institute of African Knowledge, INSTAC, with support from the government of Zimbabwe.
So, Your Excellency, you've toured the Liberation City, you've seen the work that's being done. I don't know if there are any comments. What's your impression of the project?
Well, I think this is a fantastic project for Africa, because Africa must tell its story, its history. But what I also like is that it's being built by Africans in Zimbabwe. We're not asking other people from other continents to come and build it for us. We're building it ourselves because it also reclaims our identity. But more importantly, it tells our journey in terms of our liberation, because this freedom was not free. So for me, I'm very impressed, really. But I also like the concept of having commercial ventures that support.
Now, some details on one of our headline stories. Government has approved the review of licenses, permits, levies and fees in the transport sector aimed at reducing the cost of doing business and enhancing growth of the economy. This is in line with the earlier cabinet decision of July 29, which approved the implementation of a raft of business reforms in 12 sectors of the economy. Now, addressing journalists during the post-cabinet briefing, Information Minister Dr. Jenfan Muswere said government streamlined regulatory overlaps and duplications, rationalized licenses and permits. The reviewed licenses, permit fees and levies will be subjected to further refinements, with government directing that the $23,000 duty transit fuel payable to Zimra be immediately scrapped.
Cabinet also reviewed cross-cutting licenses, permits, levies and fees that have a significant impact beyond the transport sector and relate to the following: vehicle registration by the Central Vehicle Registry, vehicle licensing by the Zimbabwe National Road Authority, vehicle change of ownership by CVR, ZINARA and the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority, parking fees and related traffic management fees by local authorities. The reviewed licenses, permits, levies and fees will be subjected to further refinements. However, Cabinet directed that the United States $23,000 duty on transit fuel payable to Zimra must be immediately scrapped. The relevant statutory instrument will be developed, and the statutory instrument will be repealed accordingly.
Now, still talking about transport and transport-related issues, Harare's roads continue to be a nightmare, with congestion taking a toll on motorists. The city's traffic wars have been igniting frustration and desperation. This report highlights the key challenges and potential solutions.
What was once a minor inconvenience on Harare's roads has turned into a daily ordeal, with traffic jams sometimes stretching for hours on end. Impatience, bad driving habits, and malfunctioning traffic lights have added to the chaos, especially during peak hours in the mornings and day end. The result? A gridlock that sometimes takes hours to clear, leaving motorists frustrated, counting the cost of lost time and fuel.
I think we should introduce more buses in the CBD so that we try to reduce the congestion, because the traffic is too much and there are too many cars in Harare right now. So
there's been an increase in terms of traffic, and I think our roads, like over the years, I think our roads, the way they were structured in such a way they didn't focus that there will be an increase in cars. So in other countries, they have a train system which helps to decongest the CBD area. So the engineers, the city fathers, they really need to relook into that.
After the road rage eventually gives way to resignation as congestion drags on, the city's roads morph into parking lots for a while. Now, a comprehensive bus system to ease congestion is one of the suggested solutions from the city to bring light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, the issue of congestion requires huge infrastructural development. We have dealt with it in part by putting in parking fees, but that doesn't seem to be enough. We also need to come up with a mass transport system. We need to put a lot of people out of the cars into buses.
And a long-term plan that reduces traffic flow into the CBD.
We need to create ring roads, Harare Drive, Ring Road. We also need to create flyovers, roads that go above other roads, particularly across the city. And then we might need to introduce some form of tolling within the city center so that we avoid people using the city center as a shortcut.
This situation has reached a critical point, and the need for effective, sustainable solutions is now more pressing than ever. Wadzanai Sansole, ZTN Prime.
Now, the journalization of the Harare-Mazowe road is taking shape, with the government saying the project will improve safety and enhance economic activity. Our reporter Talent Gore visited the area to hear how communities are responding to the transformation of one of the country's highways.
The Harare-Mazowe road has for years been a vital getaway connecting the capital to the Maternal Central and the neighboring Mozambique. Its upgrade into a dual carriageway is being hailed as a game changer for both motorists and the communities living alongside it.
Tiri kufara nekugadzirwa kuita road. Zviri kutibatsira zvakanyanya kuti road yedu yakapera yakanaka zvakadai. Tinokwanisa kutengesa zvakasununguka uye mota dzinokwanisa kufambawo zvakasununguka nekuti road yedu inenge yafara, inenge yakukwanisa kuti mota nevanhu muchifambidzana mune zvakanaka.
For vendors and small businesses, the roadworks may bring short-term inconvenience, but the long-term benefits are expected to outweigh the disruptions.
Tinofara nokutenda kugadzirwa kwakaitwa road yedu. Vana vedu vazhinji vanga vari vamarombe vachigara mabridge vachinwa zvinodhaka nokuputa zvese, asi vazhinji vedu vakawana mabasa, vana vedu vakushanda.
Zvichatibatsira kuti tifambe zvakanaka nevabereki vedu kwatiri kuenda navo, tifambe navo zvakanaka pasina kana njodzi dzakawanda dzatingachisangana nadzo kuburikidza nekunge tichisangana nemapoto nokubuda munzira kwedzi nzira dzedu dzanga dzashata. Saka kugadzirwa kwekuita nzira, aiwa tinoti basa ngariende mberi.
Questions have, however, been raised on the durability of the roads. Recently, Transport Minister Felix Muna ordered the reconstruction of Lorraine Drive in Harare after picking some anomalies. And for this project, the contractor has assured the public, saying the durability of the road will span over 15 years.
Design of this road being used normally, being maintained continuously, you are looking at 15 years of no pothole onto it. But obviously, in the event that something does happen, it will need to be looked into. But looking from where we are now, 15 years to come, this road will be still what it is in terms of being integral.
Government says it is committed to ensuring the road is completed to international standards.
This is part of a project that will stretch all the way to the Kanyemba border post for the upgrading of the Harare-Kanyemba corridor, which is very important to us as a country, as it opens up the agricultural sector, mining sector, and more or less opens up trade as well into Zambia and DRC to the north. So this corridor is laying dormant for too long, and we really want this corridor to be opened up to allow Zimbabwe to achieve its potential.
The development is set to improve road networks for communities that have gone for years without proper connectivity, including Mbire. Legislator David Batawe has welcomed the ongoing infrastructural development.
This is living testimony of infrastructure development. Mazowe is a gold mining area. Mazowe is an agricultural hub for Zimbabwe, and we are now witnessing the realization of those goals.
Once complete, this dualized road is expected to transform travel along the Harare-Mazowe highway, boosting trade, creating jobs, and making every journey safer for motorists and communities alike. This is also in line with President Emmerson Mnangagwa's mantra of leaving no one and no place behind. Reporting for ZTM Prime, I am Talent Gore along the Harare-Mazowe highway.
Well, you are watching Newsplus. We'll be back shortly after this.
Didn't graduate? I guess I blew it.
You couldn't advise him anything. He would just look at you and say, so who do you think you are?
We were just like really spoiled.
And then they just give me the receipt and I'd pay.
That guy walks in one day and then he says that he wants to make a movie.
He was blowing the money.
There was just like this habit that he had where as soon as he got money, it was gone.
I just didn't have the skills or the experience.
This money, I could see it disappear so fast.
The Phoenix Podcast has always brought you the best of the best.
I missed on that blessing, but I also regained it in some way.
In seasons 1 and 2, we introduced you to the industry's brightest stars, the ones at the top of their game, the creme de la creme. But season 3 promises to be even more exciting. We're bringing you even more fascinating guests, including the renowned farmer, Patrick Matadi. And to top it all off, our very own host, Ken Sharp, will be stepping out of the interviewer's chair and into the hot seat as he gets interviewed by a surprise guest host.
From the boss, we've been beaten, but we're not beaten yet. We can still rise.
Konapo Konapo, Ipapo Ipapo, by ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.
Welcome back. You are still watching Newsplus. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, about 1,200 villagers in Sanyati, Mashonaland West Province, have benefited from the Presidential Medical Outreach Program, which is set to bring healthcare services to communities and overcome infrastructural barriers. 150 community members were also trained on basic first aid. The beneficiaries of the initiative expressed their appreciation to the government, indicating that the program has provided them with essential healthcare services.
The Presidential Medical Outreach Program offers a number of services that entail routine immunization, hypertension screening, treatment of minor ailments, management of non-communicable diseases, and psychosocial support. The beneficiaries say the initiative has helped them access healthcare services closer to their homes. and patients with chronic conditions such as hypertension were also diagnosed and given medication.
Tikufara zvikuru kuti vari kuratidza kuti hapana nzvimbo kana munhu achasara. Tikufara neutano hwataitirwa. Sesu vakaremara zvazvitinetsa kuti tinge tichiwana mari dzekuenda kumadhokota kuwana mishonga kunge tichikwanisa kufamba kuenda nzvimbo dziri kure, asi tafara nekuti chirongwa chaunzwa mudhuze matiri. Tiri kunzwa mwoyo wedu uchifara.
Zvataitirwa naona repo zvinozvikudza nekuti zvacho zvachozotiburitsira mari takuti dai munotenga kana mishonga kana kuti asi zvichikurapa
The beneficiaries expressed their delight over the initiative, indicating that it has eased their burden and ensured that all their medical challenges are addressed.
So izvaitika nhasi zvinobatsira vagari vedu vemunzvimbo yedu machembere vamwe vakura vachakwanisa kufamba vamwe uri kuona nemawheelchair, so zvabatsira zvakanyanyisa kuti mishonga yacho vari kuiwana pano. Vese adakana even drip chairo ari kuona pano zviripo zvese, madhoktors edu tinawo ari pano, vane urwere hwakasiyana-siyana vese vari kubatsirikana vari kudhuze nekudzimba dzavo.
Member of Parliament for Sanyati and Deputy Minister of Mines and Mining Development, Dr. Polite Kambamura, said they are working in partnership with Discovery Medical Services. Dr. Kambamura pledged to supply blood pressure machines to every village health worker and promised to lobby for the construction of more clinics.
President wedu vakauya nevision totenda zvakare vediscovery vari kuteerera chirongwa chapresident neushanati kunzvimbo dzakaita sekwedu kuno kunyanya kwatataenda nezoro kunyaunde district ward 16. Nhasi unotanga tiri kuward 11% chaos. Kwauya vanhu vakawanda zvikuru nhasi zvakare vachifarira chirongwa chekuti vanga vachipiwa mishonga pachena, votaura nachiremba kwenguva outreach kuti vanhu venyu vabatsirike. Outreach rega yega yanga ichiitwa nhasi, pambaibva paitwa first aid training, vanhu vapiwa macertificate akasiyana nesignature yapresident. Vanhu vabva vaona kuti aiwa kana ndakugara ndine certificate nesignature yapresident kumadziro kwangu ndakukwanisa even kunotsvaga basa rinenge chinzi rinoti kuda munhu ane basic first aid training.
The Presidential Medical Outreach Program is a key step in addressing health disparities, strengthening local health systems and empowering communities.
Now, Zimbabwe has made significant strides in reducing its maternal mortality ratio, dropping to 212 from 651 deaths per 100,000 births within the last decade. But now, despite the decrease, government is working with various stakeholders to ensure that no life is lost during childbirth. Key causes of maternal deaths are hypertensive disorders, obstetric hemorrhage, pregnancy-related infections, and all these require quality healthcare management. But how has climate change affected other pregnant mothers in remote areas? More in the following report.
Gokwe district, once a major cotton farming hub in the country, is not being spared by climate change. In the face of the changing weather pattern, the community has had to adapt, albeit leaving them on the brink. Isaac Mataga from Katema village, 120 kilometers from Gokwe center, is one of those who has seen his fortunes change overnight. The healthcare standards is of major concern. It's a nightmare, particularly for pregnant mothers. Mataga witnessed his sister-in-law giving birth in a bush on their way to the district hospital. Distance is a major factor. This is the story of many expecting mothers in Gokwe. While they are aware of the importance of skilled birth attendants, the challenge is how to access the nearest hospital. The government is aware of this challenge in this community. In the face of increasing risky home deliveries, the government is engaging traditional leaders to encourage expecting mothers to give birth at health facilities. The government is working to ensure universal health service access for all under the National Health Strategy.
Being aware of that as Ministry of Health, we are on a drive in our current National Health Strategy, which is expiring this year, and we are already building on coming up with the National Health Strategy for 2026 to 2030. And one of the things that we are actually emphasizing on is the construction of what we call health posts. Health posts are like mini clinics, which are built closer and closer and closer to the facilities.
What is very clear is apart from the push from these villagers to avoid home deliveries, they will also need to be economically supported. Nature has left them exposed, but they can always find their way out to reduce poverty and vulnerability. Reporting for ZTN Prime, I am Mirira Nsingo.
Now over in Ethiopia, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, Africa's largest hydroelectric project, was inaugurated on the Blue Nile River in the Benishangul-Gumuz region on Tuesday. The $5 billion dam was funded by the Ethiopian state with domestic resources and reportedly has a capacity of 5,150 megawatts. That's equivalent to 3 medium-sized nuclear power plants and enough to double Ethiopia's electricity output. The new dam allows Addis Ababa to circumvent the 1929 Anglo-Egyptian Treaty, which did grant Egypt an 80% share of the Nile's waters and veto power over its use.
በአምሳ ቀበሌ መስተዳድሩ የሚኖረው ከግድብ ላይ 6 ኪሎ ሜትር ላይ እኛ የምንኖረው ከግድብ በፊት ላይ መብራት አልነበረም። አሁን ግድብ ከገብተዋል በኋላ መብራት አሁን ደርሷል። ቀጠናችን አሁን የመብራት አሁን አሉ።
And now we take a look at some business news.
Dental checkups, experiments, games.
The mixture is making bubbles and the bubbles have changed color. Our balloon has been filled by carbon dioxide.
We have it all right here on Happy Sprouts. Catch us exclusively on ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294.
Welcome back. You are still watching Newsplus. Now we take a look at some business news. Now, the 18th edition of the Sanganai Kumbanai World Tourism Expo kicks off tomorrow at Mutare Sports Club in Manicaland Province. This is the first time in the Expo's 18-year history to be hosted in the province. Now, Information Minister Muswere said the decision aims to decentralize tourism benefits, strengthen visibility and inclusivity of provincial tourism benefits. The expo will run under the theme Devolving Sustainable Tourism Development, Our Future.
The refurbishment of the Grand Reef Airport, which had been idle since 1980, has paved way for air travel directly into Mutare. The refurbishment has already facilitated the reintroduction of Air Zimbabwe flights between Harare and Mutare. The restoration of air connectivity is a game changer for the expo and also for long-term domestic and international tourism traffic. The road network has also been rehabilitated through the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructural Development. To date, 83 companies from 20 countries have confirmed their participation as buyers and exhibitors.
Still in our look at business, CBZ Bank has signed a $10 million factoring and supply chain finance line of credit, which bank officials say is set to transform the country's financial landscape for small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, the deal was signed during the Intra-African Trade Fair that is currently underway. It becomes the second deal the bank has signed at IATF 2025, a continental showcase where deals worth $44 billion are expected to be sealed. CBZ Bank's newly appointed Managing Director, Valeta Mtimkulu, says the facility, a partnership with Afrexim Bank, marks a pivotal moment as CBZ becomes the first commercial bank in Zimbabwe to offer this form of financing.
So in terms of the importance of this milestone, number one, it is a first in Zimbabwe. CBZ will become the first commercial bank to sign up for factoring. And the role that factoring plays as a mode of finance is it does make it easier for our SMEs to really access, different forms of open account financing, and also is an important driver of financial inclusion. And therefore, that is why we're really excited to be bringing this facility and signing this facility on behalf of our clients in Zimbabwe. I also want to take the opportunity to also just say that we are equally proud to announce that we have our onboarding onto the Africa Trade Gateway, which is also a visionary initiative by Afreximbank in collaboration with the African Union. We do believe that these milestones together will make financing more accessible to SMEs in Zimbabwe.
Now, stock market investing remains a mystery to many Zimbabweans, with less than 4% of the population participating in capital markets. Concerns over currency volatility and limited financial literacy have often kept ordinary citizens on the sidelines. Our reporter Eben Mabunda went out into Harare to gauge public perception on the stock exchange.
Now, investing in stocks or investing in the stock markets appears very much of a daunting task, or complicated somewhat, for many citizens living in Zimbabwe, where capital markets participation and appreciation stands at less than 4% of the entire population. I spent several hours in Harare engaging different citizens to gauge their understanding and perceptions of Zimbabwe's capital markets.
I've never heard anything about stock market. I don't even know what is stock market.
My name is Tinotinda Machikisa, 27 years old, but I've never heard about stock market.
You understand? Tony stock yangu nayo. Yoti antorno kuti ma stock marketing ne ma stock exchange amuna letasi town. Saka inini ndingofight for the little that I have. Yes. Those stock yangu nayo.
Now, the fears of yesteryears, which were characterized by currency depreciation and value loss for some investors, seem to have come in the way of the present day investing tendencies of potential investors.
Lost confidence in the banking sector and the stock market, considering what had happened in the previous years, where we dollarized and then we changed currency. So as locals and entrepreneurs and investors in Zimbabwe, we've lost confidence in the banking sector. We've lost confidence in these stock markets.
Experts maintain that the stock market is protected by regulators like the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, and that shares have retained value even through previous currency changes.
So you'll find in 2009, when we had a big change in our currency from Zim dollar to US dollar, all the people who had shares were able to become liquid faster than people who didn't have any investment, because they were able to sell their shares in US dollars.
The main exchanges in Zimbabwe are the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, ZSE, the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, VFX, and the FinSec platforms, mostly unknown or misunderstood by the majority of Zimbabweans. Institutional investors make up 70% of the domestic market activity, dominated by pension funds, insurance companies, private corporations, trusts, and investment companies. To bridge the knowledge gap in Zimbabwe's domestic market, several financial literacy initiatives are gaining traction. One notable example is the National Capital Markets Contest for high schools. I spoke with students from Harare High School who participated in the competition and impressively grew a virtual investment of 1 million ZiG to 14 million ZiG in just 6 weeks on the C-Trade digital platform.
It was exciting and also fierce because we had to apply all the knowledge that we knew on trading, because this was our first time to trade.
So we had to find a strategy whereby each of us would have the app in our phones, and we would try to trade individually, and then we'd meet up. I think once a week and ask each other, what did you buy, what did you do, what did you do? And then we had a separate research team, and each time every morning they would come with an update. Guys, something is happening with Tanganda, right? We need to buy Tanganda.
Market authorities are introducing a series of reforms aimed at rebuilding trust and encouraging broader participation by creating an inclusive and transparent environment that attracts individual or retail investors.
I think as a country, in terms of getting the currency right, we are a bit better than before. That's why we've got the VFX. The VFX helps in that way. The VFX remains a hard currency exchange. So it doesn't. So if the currency changes, it doesn't change with the currency.
Confidence levels in Zimbabwe's capital markets remain very. Information deficit seems to be the order of the day. And yet, capital markets in Zimbabwe remain a center for value preservation and capital appreciation. Ibn Mabunda, reporting for ZTN Prime in Harare.
When Newsplus comes back, we take a look at some sorting action.
They call me Racer X, or in this case, Racer J.
Put your seatbelt on.
Welcome back. You are still watching Newsplus. Now we take a look at some sporting news, and we start off with some football. The Warriors' struggles in the World Cup qualifiers continued this afternoon. Zimbabwe went down to Rwanda at Orlando Stadium in Johannesburg, a result that means the senior men's team remains without a win in the campaign. With 2 qualifiers still to play before turning attention to the AFCON finals in December, questions remain about where the spark will come from. For more on what happened in today's match, we have our reporter Langton Nyakwenda, who was at Orlando Stadium.
Orlando Stadium in Johannesburg as Zimbabwe went down 1-0 to Rwanda, and they remain winless in this World Cup qualifying campaign. Interestingly, Zimbabwe failed to score in the last 2 World Cup qualifiers against Benin again.
Apologies for that clip, a bit of a technical challenge. But still looking at our sporting news, all is set for the forthcoming CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations 2026 COSAFA qualifiers, set for the 11th to the 20th of September in Harare. Local Organizing Committee Chairman Professor Thomas Marambanyika says they are well prepared to welcome their guests who will be taking part in the 12-team tournament and have ensured that the games will be accessible to all.
We have prepared very well to ensure that we receive our visitors from the 11 countries that are coming to participate, because Zimbabwe is the 12th country. And let me highlight that in terms of stadium entry, we will find that most of our games are free of charge. So those who are coming to watch our games will get complimentary tickets, so that we also have some statistics in terms of who is going to be the numbers who are going to participate in our stadium. Then, of course, we may charge maybe from semi-final to the final, just a small fee, which will actually determine at some point. And again, we use the ticketing system for people to participate in those games.
The COSAFA Executive Director says they are looking forward to a good tournament and are delighted by the support that they have received thus far, especially from clubs that have availed their stadiums.
The stadia. We are playing at two stadia. We're playing at the Hart Stadium and the Moore Stadium in Ngoni. And both of those have been very supportive in terms of making their stadia available, and very good facilities they are. Next time we come, I'm sure that we're going to have the National Sports Stadium. Yeah. Madam Elter? Yes. But in the meantime, and actually these two stadia are just ideal for this age group. You know, one doesn't also want to go to a 40,000 seater where, you know, the spectators are going to get a little lost. So we're very happy with, with the stadia and with, all of the arrangements thus far. So we're looking forward to a very good tournament. It kicks off on Thursday, as we know, at the Ngoni Stadium.
Now, still with COSAFA, Zimbabwe is set to become the first nation to host a COSAFA tournament with video assistant referee from the group stages. Now, in the past, video assistant referee was used in the knockout stages of COSAFA tournaments, with the forthcoming CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations 2026 COSAFA qualifiers set for the 11th to the 20th of this month being the difference maker. COSAFA referees manager Felix Tangwarima believes that the nation will benefit more as local officials will be given a chance to learn how to use modern trends.
We've been training our referees, and as I speak to you right now, we have in the zone, we have close to 50 referees certified by FIFA, whom we have trained during the past 3 years. And out of those 50 in Zimbabwe, we have about 6-7 who are certified to officiate with VAR. The benefit of us being here is more to Zimbabwe, it's more to ZIFA, Mr. President, simply because we know in the near future you'll be introducing VAR in Zimbabwe. But we didn't want to take you unprepared. So by hosting this tournament, we have actually incorporated 10 local referees to be trained. As I speak to you right now, your 10 local referees are being trained to be compliant with VAR. And in addition to the 10, we also have about 5 who are actually included in the tournament as tournament referees. So you can see the benefit of of hosting this tournament. It's actually benefiting our referees as well.
Now let's turn our attention to the world of athletics. Distance runners Isaac Mpofu, Tendai Zumutu and Fortunate Chidzivo are set to leave the country this Wednesday for Tokyo, Japan, ahead of this year's edition of the World Athletics Championships. Team coach Benson Chauge says the preparations went on well as there were organizations that worked around the clock to ensure that the team is adequately prepared.
The preparation went on well. We got support from NAS to cover our fuel, to cover our training vehicle and other necessities in the camp. At the times, I don't know how they work hand in hand, ZOP, NAS, but the two organizations have been working hand in glove in making sure that our team and our preparation for these guys went smooth. If you ask me where they are, I'll tell you that it's $1 million question. As a coach, you want to give the best.
Chauke called on the athletes to use this opportunity to represent their nation with pride and enjoy themselves.
Go and enjoy. Do not put yourself under pressure. We have done the best we have. We know our splits. We know our strength. We know our weaknesses. And therefore, we stay within our target time splits and give it our all. This is a 206 guy and the 209 guy. World champs are won by 208, 207, thereabout. If we have exceptional talent, it will probably bring the time to 206. There are no pace setters, so it's everyone's race. It's everyone's race. No pace setter, no.
All the best to our athletes who are all rallying and running behind them. That's all we had for you on Newsplus this Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Faith Nyaude. We leave you with the weather forecast. Good evening and enjoy the rest of your viewing.